Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us for this week's Thursday with AARP Wisconsin show. I am Amber Miller, your host. You probably noticed we added some jazzy music to our intro. We'd love your feedback on it. Just trying to shake things up, every once in a while. So before we get to our show, of course, just a couple announcements. If you are looking for information on upcoming virtual and in-person events, anything to do with advocacy or some of the other work that we are focusing on, we definitely encourage you to visit the AARP Wisconsin website, which is aarp.org/WI, and it's updated on a regular basis, and you can find all information there. We know that it is voting season, so if you're looking for the most up-to-date information regarding that, including polling location and similar information, there's two ways that you can connect with AARP Wisconsin on that. The first thing you could do is if you have a smartphone, you can text WI Vote, so WIVOTES to 22777. And when you do that, you're going to get a link back from AARP that you just click to confirm, and then it's going to take you right to the information about voter education. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is if you just want to go on your laptop or desktop and go to the aarp.org/WI Vote. So WIVOTES. And once again, all information can be there. If you're like, I don't know what day to vote, how do I do absentee, what do I need to bring when I go to the polls, all that information can be found there. And please pass this information along to your friends and family. If you are looking to volunteer with AARP Wisconsin, we'd love for you to join our family. So you could go to the website below, which is aarp.org/I want to. So I want, then the number 2, volunteer. Once you go to that website, there'll be information about the volunteer opportunities in general, and then also the online application. So once you fill that out, it will go to us here at AARP Wisconsin, and we will connect with you. But there are virtual and in-person opportunities available right now throughout the whole state. So today's show is a little different. We're going to be bringing on Darrin Wisniewski with AARP Wisconsin. You have seen him before. I've referenced him before because his favorite movie is Footloose, so we talk about it all the time. So he is here. We are going to be talking all things livable communities. So if you don't know what livable communities is, you're like, I've never heard of that, or maybe you have, but you have additional questions or comments, that is what today's show is going to be about. So Darrin is going to pop on. Nope, you're going to pop on first, and then I know there's a short video, right, Darrin, that we're going to play.
Yeah, we'll play the video before we get started. But I always, when I give public presentations, I love to ask people's first word that pops in mind when we say AARP. And community development and creating livable communities never comes to mind.
Never.
So we thought this was a great opportunity, especially hearing some feedback from some of our longtime volunteers that just didn't even know that AARP worked in this space. That it would be a great opportunity to share with others and just talk a little bit about why AARP is in livable communities and what it means. So we'll start with our video and go from there.
AARP is working to make communities more livable for people of all ages. But what is a livable community? In a livable community, people of all ages can find housing that is comfortable and affordable. It is also a community where residents can get where they want and need to go, regardless of whether they own a car. It's a place where people can spend time in parks and public spaces that are vibrant, safe, and healthy, so they can socialize with their friends and participate in fun activities. A livable community ensures access to needed shopping and healthcare services. It's a place where people can work or volunteer and be included in community events and decision-making. So, what is a livable community? It's one where everyone can make their city, town, or neighborhood a lifelong home.
that's such a great a video of really like a nice short overview, but like really encompassing kind of what you said, Darrin, about, and I was just talking about this yesterday on this van tour I was taking, that normally when people hear AARP, a lot of people are like, oh, it's memberships. Oh, hey, I have my health insurance through there. But I'm like, oh my goodness, we do so many other things. And this right here, I think really encompass some of the work that we do, Darrin.
Yeah, even when I came to work for AARP, my own parents, knowing that I've been in community development for over 20 years, although they don't understand what community development
Correct.
means. But knowing that I did that for 20 years, the first thing was when they asked what I'd be doing with AARP, they said, will you be selling insurance? Will you be selling cell phones? I said, no,
Yeah.
that's not what we do at all. I'm doing exactly what I'm doing now, just under a different banner,
Just a
and with a
different
little bit
banner.
different focus. So
Yeah.
so that's fun. And
No, it's
so,
fun.
I am grateful that AARP took up the banner of livable communities.
Mhm.
Um, I was sharing, I had a presentation for the Active Wisconsin Network yesterday, and so we shared a little bit about the history that, this all started back in 2010
Mhm.
when
Yeah.
AARP surveyed its members and, found out that almost 80% of them wanted to either stay in their community as they got older or more particularly stay in their home. Um, and then you step back and you look at the fact that our communities and our homes are not built for people to grow older in. They're built for an able-bodied 35-year-old typically, and anybody
Mhm.
outside of that struggles.
Mhm.
And so ARP recognizing that that our membership fits squarely in that point, and this is a priority for them is to be able to stay there. Just develop the Livable Communities initiative, and I think it's great.
And Darrin, can you talk a little bit about? I know we kind of live by this. It really coincides with some of our work, but when we talk about livable communities, we always say the 8 domains of livability. And can you talk about what those 8 domains are?
Yeah, oh, is this the quiz I wasn't prepared
This is
for?
the quiz. This is the quiz.
Yeah, we'll see how many we can get. But
Okay.
really, it's uh, 8 areas that they say every community needs to focus on. And so we look at access to housing, safe, affordable housing for everybody, access to transportation, and then that's not just public transportation, although that's a big component. But what are the ways that people can get around?
Yeah.
Knowing that your typical American outlives their ability to drive by 7 to 10 years,
Mhm.
what does their life look like when they're no longer able to drive a car? Will it be one of social isolation or one of staying engaged in their community, which we all know is much better for their health? We also, one of the other 8 domains is access to public spaces and parks and green spaces. Um, it's one thing to have them, but if you can't enjoy them or get
Mhm.
there, then they offer, it's no good for anybody or does no good. We also look at respect and social inclusion. Rampant ageism in society today, and so is there mutual respect for all generations and all people, and can all people feel like they're a part of the community and involved in the community? We look at civic participation, and this is a way folks identify with what they can do in the community, and so
Mhm.
we look at, are they able to, if they want or they need, get a job as they get older or keep a job as they get older, or if they've retired, are there opportunities for volunteering in their community where they can take their life experience and give back and make their community better? We also look at access to healthcare. And what is out there now? Is it easily accessible? And that's easier said than done in some communities, especially our rural communities,
Mhm.
which don't necessarily have a hospital.
Mhm.
So are there opportunities for people to stay engaged there? What does telemedicine look like for folks? And that gets into broadband, which says that connectivity. And then I think the last is the communication. How are people getting their information? We recognize there's so many avenues. There's,
Mhm.
the internet,
Yep.
which many people get their information from. But then there's the traditional means, the newspaper, the radio, the TV, the flyer in the local coffee shop or in the local grocery store, the flyer in the library, whatever ways, and understanding and making sure that people have a well-rounded approach to communicating, so you can hit all age groups for this important information.
Yeah, and those 8 domains of people are like, oh, those are kind of interesting. Darren put the website that you could actually go to find a handout with the 8 domains, and really maybe start thinking about how you view your own local community. And I will say, before I came to AARP, I worked in economic development, but didn't look at my community the way I do now, which is, I live alone, no married, no children, I drive, but how will that look if eventually I choose not to drive, or maybe for medical reasons I cannot drive? What is transportation look like for me, and access to healthcare? It really does make you kind of look at your community kind of just differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I bring this mindset even in my personal life. I
Mhm.
serve on Madison's Transportation Commission, and we were planning last night a big public engagement for a really important project in Madison. And we spent hours just talking about how people could get there and what is the most equitable means for that to happen, understanding that there might be a technology barrier, so that's not a way to do it. And so, it really is top of mind for me to be able to just have all of that out there and make sure that we are able to get to the hidden and missing voices in every community, and that nobody feels left out.
And Darren, what communities right now are part of the Livable community age friendly network? Maybe if we could start, how about this? Actually, let me even backtrack. How many communities altogether are part of this initiative? And then maybe we can then go to Wisconsin.
Sure. Well, there's, as you and I kind of use words interchangeably, and we
Yeah.
talk about livable communities in the age
Yep.
friendly network, but they're really two distinct things. The
Mhm.
livable communities, which I shared the link for, it's AARP's general approach, resources, more resources than you can ever imagine. And I always encourage people to look at those and just see which ones they can work in their community. And I'm going to share a link in the chat there. But then in 2012, AARP was approached by the World Health Organization to be a U.S. affiliate of the Age Friendly Communities Initiative. And as I understand it, I wasn't with AARP at the time
Mhm.
or in on these decisions, but as I understand it, they said, sure, we'll do it, and expected maybe, might be 50 communities out there that would be willing to do it. Now, I think at this point in time, they've got um, well over 600 communities that are members of this
It's
network.
700.
Oh, 700. See, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's increased, and the only reason why I checked the numbers last week, and it was 699. So my assumption is
Okay, that's
this
somebody
week
else joined.
it's over 700. But I mean, it's amazing how many communities are really kind of like getting on board with this.
Yeah, and it's fantastic to know that there's a whole network of people out there who are working on the same thing. And the Age Friendly Network is not a badge that says, "Hey, we are the perfect place to retire," or we've got it. It means that we understand that this is always a work in progress, and we need to include the age-friendly lens in all that we do, in all of our planning and our policy, and that is the community livable for all ages and all abilities? And that's huge. This isn't just, is the community livable for those who are 50 plus, although that's
Mhm.
ARP's focus. But we also recognize when you make it livable for someone who's 60, 70, 80, 90, or 100 years old, you've also made it livable for maybe the 35-year-old that broke their leg.
Yeah.
Maybe the mom with a little toddler, or the mom or dad pushing a stroller down the street. Those are all things when we look at mobility and getting around, that people have different means of of mobility. And where you're at in life stages, it could always be a little bit of a challenge. And so when you've made it livable for those older adults, you've made it livable for everybody. But then
Absolutely.
even in Wisconsin, we're excited, especially because we're going to welcome some of them to Madison next week.
I know.
But we have the Wisconsin network of age-friendly communities, which, I mean, it's just our communities within the state that are
Mhm.
part of the age-friendly network. And we are up to 10, I believe. And I am going to
Crazy.
bring
Wow.
them up
Yeah.
here on the map. We've got some of the trailblazers in Wisconsin. Big shout out to Greendale and Sherwood and Sheboygan, who led the way for making this happen. And then later on, we had La Crosse, Madison, and Wausau join. In 2020, just kind of quietly up out of nowhere, Oshkosh said we raised their hand to be part of the network, and so we welcomed them in. And then in 2022, we've had a busy year too. We've welcomed first Wauwatosa, and then Appleton, and finally Stevens Point. And so, we have a great broad base of communities of all sizes around the
Mhm.
states. Northwest Wisconsin, we're eyeing you. We're still missing some folks up there, but we'd love to talk to you if this is something that is interested in. And with the network, it is important to note that there's no money that comes from AARP to be part of the network. It really is connections and connecting to other communities, not only in the state, but around the country. It is also training and technical assistance that we provide, either from our national office or from what we can do here in the
Mhm.
state. As we mentioned, that we have folks coming into Madison next week, and this is in coordination with the Livable Communities Workshop Housing Conference that is happening. This is had been in person in years past, but this year it is a virtual event,
Mhm.
as it has been since COVID. And you know, it gives us an opportunity for I'm going to put that link in the chat for housing because
Mhm.
there's still time to register. It's a virtual
Yeah.
event, so you don't have to make travel plans for that.
Mhm.
But it gives folks to participate in that. And so what we're doing with our network of age-friendly communities and other partners and collaborators from around the state that are working in this is we're going to invite them to Madison on Thursday. We're going to do a watch party for the Thursday afternoon segment of the conference, which is the second day, and we'll have some
Mhm.
discussion amongst the group there. And then Thursday night, we're going to get our age-friendly communities together and go out to dinner and just have some connection experience. Since this network has grown, we haven't had a chance to all gather in person. They've seen each other virtually over Zoom, but there's nothing that beats that in-person connection. So we're looking forward to getting them there. And then Friday, we're going to be boarding a bus and taking a special tour out on the west side of Madison. And our national office has worked with Opticos Design out of California to put together a missing middle housing tour in Madison. And this is especially important because this is many people I'm sure have heard talk about the housing shortage in
Mhm.
America.
Mhm.
And I think what people don't register is it's a pretty complex problem. There's no one magic solution out there, but it's going to be a lot of smaller solutions that are going to end up in fixing this. And one solution that is out there is focusing on missing middle housing, which is smaller scale. And it is, you think missing middle, what's that? Well,
Mhm.
it's the stuff between the single family home
Yep.
and the large scale apartment complex.
Mhm.
So these are your duplexes, these are your quadplexes, these are your sixplexes. Um, you know, tip Traditionally, as cities grew up, these were interspersed in neighborhoods. You had this. You had a little chance to get some higher density living there, and they fit in, and everybody accepted them. And all of a sudden, zoning came in and said, "No, we're no longer going to allow them," and it really went counter to the traditional way that neighborhoods were developed. Now we're seeing a resurgence on being able to put these things back, and we need to reteach people that these things do fit in, because often we hear pushback and people are
Mhm.
concerned when you talk about density, when you talk about apartments.
Mhm.
They have all kinds of things that come to mind, and so we love to show that these exist everywhere in most historic neighborhoods in all of our cities, and we do have an opportunity. So we're grateful for the chance to work with Opticos and our Livables communities team to do a tour here in Madison for our age-friendly folks and partners that are coming in for that.
And Darrin, it looks like we have a question from
All right.
Jim. He just says, thanks for all your great work on this issue. What advice do you have for somebody who wants to start working with their city leaders to make their communities become more livable and age-friendly? How do they get started? And I'll put that on you.
All right. There's multiple ways that you can do this, and there's a way to gather data and show that there's a need there, and it depends on what relationship you have with your elected officials or those who are making those decisions. One good way to do it is work with your neighbors or friends in your community. And I'm going to post a link to the walk audit toolkit that AARP has, and I'm going to drop that down in the comments section. This is a simple tool where you go out and you look at a block and you look at the infrastructure and how accessible is it for people who are walking, for people who are biking. Um, and especially if you're going to organize this as a group of people, really do encourage you to invite people of all different mobility needs to go and see this through the eyes of somebody who's walking the streets. And then you can take that data and meet with the planners in your community, or your council person or alderperson or board member or your mayor or whomever. But at least then you have some real things to say, here's what I observed. This is what's happening in our community, and we need to work on this. And then, of course, we'd always invite you to reach out to AARP Wisconsin if you are in the state. We'd love to be able to come and talk to any interested residents, elected officials on ways. There are simple ways you can do it. Just by using any of the resources. You don't have to join the network of age-friendly communities, but we love it if you would. I think that's sort of the penultimate step that you would take. Let's say we're really making a commitment to this.
And 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure of doing a walk audit with the city of Wauwatosa. They just become part of the age-friendly network, or trying to thrive to be a livable community earlier this year. And once again, you don't know what you don't know. But I had a partner, she and I, walking down the streets, looking at speeding. Does it look like people are speeding? And the speed limit was 25 miles an hour. I'm not joking. At least somebody was going 65 miles an hour. Like, it almost blew us over. And it's just, how can anyone feel safe crossing the streets knowing that people are speeding? Some of the sidewalks needed repair. And so that walk audit, I think, just gave, opened my eyes, but also the residents of Wauwatosa on what are ways that maybe we can work with Department of Public Works or work with the city to maybe lower the speed limit, to try to see ways that we can fix the sidewalks. It was very eye-opening.
Yeah, and now is the perfect time because October is Pedestrian Safety Awareness Month.
Yes.
And what a great time to conduct walk audits in your community. I know that I'm going up to Ashland, Wisconsin. I was going to say Ohio, my previous state. Ashland, Wisconsin, at the beginning of October to work with them on doing a workshop for walk audits and to help them there. But it is a perfect time to focus on that. As we say, any of these weeks or months that bring awareness to one thing, you really should do it all year round. But if you're ever going to do it, the time during that awareness month is a perfect opportunity.
Beautiful. And Darrin, before we start wrapping up the show, would you be so kind to put the map up again? Because I also want to encourage people, if you're watching this from any of these communities, and if you're like, how do I get involved, or how can I get more information? We encourage you. You're more than welcome to reach out to AARP Wisconsin. We could connect you directly. A lot of the times, some of the communities might either have their own Facebook page. A lot of them say age-friendly Oshkosh, for instance, but we'd love for you to connect with them, and especially if you're in any of these areas. And Darrin, any final comments before we wrap up the show about livable communities, or maybe how people can get involved or more information?
No, I would encourage you, anybody who's watching, to just really look through the lens of livable communities in their community and realize the benefit that it adds to everybody. I share that Well, I didn't realize it at the time. My early part of my career spent in a neighborhood in Columbus, Ohio called German Village. And I was involved in a monthly supper group. And I was the youngest person there, and there were people in their 40s and 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and even a centenarian. And it really helped me to appreciate what it meant to get old, but it really helped me appreciate later on as I reflect on that time what a livable community was. We had a grocery store that we could walk to, walk to civic stuff. There was plenty of opportunities to volunteer. And I always think back on, our centenarian that I knew, Katie, and you know, she had a loving neighborhood around her so that if there was anything amiss in Katie's normal schedule that people picked up, they could reach out and make sure things were okay. And that's the beauty of community, and that's what livable communities helps to foster.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Darrin. And we always invite people, once again, you can check out the AARP Wisconsin website or the Livable Communities. And they also have an amazing e-newsletter. You can sign up. You receive it every Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, today being Thursday. Great information. And also, too, just in general, if you have questions that you weren't able to ask on here, please reach out to the AARP Wisconsin office. So, Darrin, if you would be so kind, Darrin is also the producer of this show. If you would be so kind to bring up events that are coming up that might be of interest to people. Monday the 19th at 6 p.m. Tech Talk, a girlfriend to girlfriend workshop on the latest car technology. We all know some of those cars have a lot of bells and whistles that we don't know how to use. So definitely encourage you to look into that. Tuesday, September 20th, Part 1, Social Security, Understanding What May Impact Your Monthly Benefits. And then 2 days later, there is a part 2, how that can affect your whole family. Saturday, the 24th, here in Milwaukee, Walk with a Doc. If you're interested in walking with us, I will be there along with volunteers and a really great nutritionist. And then we just walk and we talk. A nice way, once again, if you want to learn more about the program, please join us. And September 27th, AARP will be a sponsor for the 27th, 28th, and 29th of September at China Lights Lantern Festival. It's coming back after a 3-year hiatus. You do get discounted tickets with your AARP promo code, which you can find on our website. Otherwise, you can get more information or call the phone number below. Small Dollar Big Impact, of course, is a monthly grant that AARP Wisconsin does for nonprofits, municipalities, and similar. So if you have a really fun, creative, innovative idea to help your community and specifically our 50-plus population, we encourage you to go to aarp.org/WISDBI to fill out an application. The application is fairly short, and then it's a monthly grant. So if perchance you can't meet the October deadline, there'll be one in November. But we love to see these small grants go throughout Wisconsin, so we encourage you to go to that website. For next week's show, so September 22nd, it is Falls Prevention Week. So this is highlighting ways to prevent falls, resources and information. There's a lot of stuff going around in the state because this is a national week. So if you're like, I've never heard about it, we definitely encourage you to join in on next Thursday at noon on our Facebook.com page or our YouTube page. So it was so great to have Darrin on. We'd love to talk about livable community work. Just, AARP does such amazing things throughout the United States, but even more, we're more than just a membership. And that's really, I think, what we're trying to highlight is some of the other initiatives that we're focusing on. So would love for you to get involved with livable communities. And we look forward to seeing you next Thursday, September 22nd. And until then, be safe. Thank you.